Hey, this is Phillip, and welcome to the Phillip Show. I am so excited that you're here. I'm going to grab my coffee. Excuse me, that was that was hot. So today, in today's world, there are so many things that we're all passionate about. We're passionate about the economy, culture, race, education, and we all want to raise our voices in hopes of having a say or making a difference in the areas that we find purpose and where we want to put our drive, right? What am I determined to do? What kind of change am I interested in making? And where is my passion taking me? And what am I expecting from all of my efforts? Today, we're speaking with an animal activist, certified mindfulness and meditation teacher. I love that, mindfulness and meditation teacher, and author of a new science fiction trilogy entitled Sentient, a novel about an animal agriculture industry and how it affects the climate and the lives of three characters. So please welcome to the show, Jay VanLandingham. Jay.
Woo, thank you. Thank you so much, Phillip, for having me on. This is amazing.
Oh, you're so welcome. So welcome. Thank you for coming and for being here. Where are you? Where are you right now?
I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio. It is raining.
Yeah.
Actually kind of nice because it's relaxing. And this is my little meditation space here. That's my lovely altar. So I like to sit here and meditate. So I thought it would be a good spot for the podcast.
Absolutely. It's so peaceful. And I love how you just jumped right in because I'm so interested. So you're certified mindfulness and meditation teacher. What is that?
So I was certified through the School of Positive Transformation. And basically what that means is that I usually do group meditations. I haven't done any individual one-on-one meditation teaching yet. But really what it is for me is incorporating meditation into as much of what I do as possible. So, just having the opportunity to teach people how to come back to the present moment. Especially in this day and age where I know there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of questions about the future and what does it look like. Yeah. And this is a time more than ever where I think we're being asked to be present. And so, I've meditated for about 20 years, just like myself, and then in some other groups. And so in my previous work with people living with cancer, I had the opportunity to do some teaching. So I decided to get certified in it to help with my coaching practice. So what that might look like is if I'm coaching with an individual and we're on the phone, and let's say they're particularly stressed, what it could look like is, let's sit and do a meditation for a minute. Especially if it's someone that is open to meditation. If that's not something someone is interested in, I would never press that. But it's more like I can offer a group meditation, or let's just sit and meditate for a minute and see if we can center things, ground things, and bring things back to the present and reduce some overwhelm.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. There are so many things. I call them distractions. There can be positive distractions or negative distractions. But regardless, there's something that takes up our space, our mental space, and really compartmentalizing that and addressing it. How did you start? Because I know we're going to get to your book, so I'm super excited about that. But how did you start? How and why did you start your journey of coaching?
Well, it started with social work, actually. So I've been a social worker for 11 years. And I started doing some individual work, and I really enjoyed doing that. The difference, of course, with being, let's say, a licensed independent therapist, social worker, which I have done that in the past, and I am licensed, is you are bound by ethics and boundaries, which is appropriate and important. And in coaching, I was able to apply those same ethics and boundaries because I already had them for myself. So I could apply that to my coaching practice. But the difference is, I can more pick my clients. I can pick who I want to work with. I can market it differently for myself. I can do something like spiritual creative coaching, which is something that in the social work field, at least here in Cincinnati, is just not really something that we do.
Sure.
Where we wouldn't call it that. You'd call it one-on-one counseling. And if the person was a spiritual person, you might talk about that. But in this case, it's much more focused on a person's business goals and professional goals.
Yeah.
A lot of times, therapy is more emotional goals.
Gotcha.
Emotional improvement, emotional setbacks, that kind of thing. And I got into it actually by getting a health coach certification through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and this was back in 2015. Because I was really, this might be a good segue, but I was really dedicated to food access. One of the things that got me into social work was addressing poverty. I had visited Central America several times and had seen firsthand the inequality, the poverty, and I wanted to do something about that. And food access had always been something I'd been aware of through social work. And so I thought, well, having a social work background, having a health coach background, I could always try to do some policy change, do some advocacy around food access. And then that kind of led me into veganism a little bit, but just focusing on like, what is it like to be on food stamps and also want to eat healthier? And then you have the issue of food deserts,
Got it.
city areas, and so for me, it kind of all played a part, and it all kind of weaved together of this thing about food access, healthy food access, sustainability, and making sure everyone can access that in a healthy way. And I think that's kind of how it all just came together, and the coaching now is more a spiritual creative coaching, but it's all the same.
It's all the same. Yeah, it's all interconnected. And you were talking about like food access, and I know it's a trilogy that you're writing, and this is the first component, correct, of the trilogy. Yeah. So Sentient, and it's about the agriculture industry.
Yes.
Why? I guess we heard a little bit about why, but what's it all about? What are you doing?
Well, so the essence or the theme of it is really about animals and nature and our connection to nature. And we are from nature. That's, my personal belief. I don't know if anyone would disagree with that, but I will speak for myself when I say, we are of nature, we come from nature. And so, a lot of that has to do with our food, right? And where does our food come from? And we have moved into a system where we don't really see where our food comes from. We don't see the farm where it comes from anymore. Factory farms and what's called CAFOs, or concentrated animal feeding operations, we don't see those. We don't see where our food is made. And so these are intentionally pushed back and away from our site because it's unsightly. It's frightening what happens to these animals. So for me, it's a social justice issue. It goes back to the social worker in me, but also just the nature and us all being able to have our own freedom. So the book is just about, animals lacking that freedom. And these characters who are really just mired in an animal agriculture system that really is kind of suffocating them in different ways. So, for example, there's one character that is a Honduran undocumented immigrant from Honduras, and he works in a slaughterhouse. And this is the reality for a lot of undocumented immigrants. They come here, and sometimes this is the work that they can find is in the food system, but they're not paid fairly. They are treated poorly. This is factory work. I mean, we're talking losing limbs, having to wear diapers all day because they don't get bathroom breaks. So I try to put some of this, it's fiction, but it's reality-based fiction. And I try to put this in the book as an education, but also as it doesn't mean that we there's not an easy answer, you know. It's like there's a character that's an animal empath, and what that means is she realizes that she can experience what's happening to animals and actually communicate and connect with one animal in particular that is on its way to slaughter. And there's this concern that if this animal is slaughtered, because she's linked to the animal, she may also actually die if the animal is slaughtered. So I try to make that connection to we're all interconnected. We're connected, you know, to animals. We're connected to nature, not forgetting that. And really in the book, the animal agriculture, it really is just a representation of industry, of, you know, of that disconnect from nature. It's like, it's the opposite. And so I just painted that picture as this is the opposite of where a more peaceful and sustainable living could be. So,
with the book being a trilogy, what are you hoping? First of all, who is the book for, and what are you hoping that the book is going to do?
The book is for anyone who is concerned about the environment. You know, anyone who's really concerned about climate change. That can be vegans, of course. I think that'd be the obvious answer, vegans, animal rights activists, but I don't think that that's entirely true. And I have a lot of people that read my stuff, and actually none of them are vegan. You know, it's about relationship. You know, my hope, life is about relationship, right?
Yeah.
You know, my relationship with my family, my friends, your relationship with the people in your circle, and the relationship that we're lacking from nature because of the choices that we may or may not be making. So, you know, the book is for people who are just concerned about how our choices might be limiting our connection with each other and the environment. And you know, my hope with the book is just to raise some questions about what's important. What are the priorities for us? Is it connection? Yeah. Is it community? Is it relationship? And why does that relationship stop with animals? You know, that's the question.
It's pretty profound. And did you mean to be so creative when you did it? Like, was it intentional to say, I'm trying to present it in this way, and I think that this is different enough for people to be more engaged? Or how did you come up with the concept?
Yes and no. So every writer's going to say something different about this, but my belief is that stories literally just drop in front of you. If my job as a writer, if I'm doing it well, is to literally be a conduit for whatever's supposed to come my way. So I had only been vegan for a year, and this was 7 years ago, and I literally was driving down the highway, and I think I was watching a lot of documentaries like Forks Over Knives, and that, like, I was really educating myself. And I think a transport truck came down 75 South. It's very common to see them on the 75 interstate. And this idea just dropped into my head. I wasn't writing anything at the time. I was kind of, in terms of writing, I was actually pretty dried up. I had no ideas. I had nothing to write about that I was passionate about. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
And suddenly I find this veganism thing and this animal rights thing. And I'm like, this is something I'm seriously passionate about. So the idea was originally supposed to be a kind of adult create your own adventure story. The animals, I was actually going to have animals in the story that were in the factory farms. Like I was going to have a cow and a pig and a chicken.
Okay.
And so people were supposed to be able to decide what happens next. And I actually did create it as like a weekly episodic series where you read an episode like on a Sunday night, and as a community, whoever participated had a week to decide and vote on what they wanted to happen next. And so you didn't do it as an individual, but let's say 5 people voted, and then I would then write the next part, and then that's what we're doing next.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to originally be an experiment. my question initially was, if I put people in the forefront of what's happening to animals, would they make different decisions? Because again, like I was saying before, we don't have access to what is going on. You can choose to turn a video off if you see something that's disturbing to you.
Right.
I can choose to turn off something if I don't want to see it. We can turn away from almost anything. We have seen that happen in society how many times, of turning away from injustice.
Yeah.
And this is the easiest injustice to turn away from, because factory farms, again, are hours away. We don't see stuff happening. I think it was Paul McCartney who said, if slaughterhouses were made of glass, nobody would eat meat. That's true. So that was my initial experiment, was if I could get this out there and get it into, a lot of people's hands, could it create some change? But, ultimately it evolved as I evolved and as I changed over the last 8 years into, relationships. And there are the characters in these books have relationships that are damaged because of what's happening with the agriculture industry.
Yeah.
We have characters whose families are missing and disappeared. We have characters that are separated by distance because they come here to work and their family is in another country, and this is the only work they could get. I mean, relationships are being destroyed, and it's kind of an allegory to how these animals' relationships are destroyed. Calves being taken from their moms, that kind of thing. So I can't say it was all planned. I think it is just meant to be, I suppose.
Coming from your background, and you mentioned, your own journey and working closely in health and with being an advocate in the LGBTQ plus community and HIV. How much of your journey do you think helped to fuel your passion for standing up for, say, these characters, either fictional or otherwise?
I think all of it. I have to ask myself, if I didn't go into social work, because I could look at that as, well, was that a mistake because I'm actually supposed to be writing in my life? But, I think all of it mixed in, because, like I have a smaller series of mini episodes, books that are out. It's called The Animalist Code. And that one, the main character is a social worker. Mm-hmm. And there are many instances in that story where he talks about some of his clients. And these are actual experiences that I've had with my clients, because it's a way he's learning how he's relating to some of his clients who are struggling. So again, it's like what this podcast is all about, right? It's relating. It's also, as I have found my authentic self, I can listen better to the authenticity of my characters. Mm-hmm. And so I've only been able to learn how to do that also from being a social worker, because we are taught how to listen to our clients, to watch our judgments, to watch, our own mindset, and just listen to our clients and be there for our clients, and accept them fully for who they are. And so that's all of that. Yes.
You mentioned that you found your authentic self. What do you mean by that?
For me, it's the closest to, I always like to call it like the closest to being a child, our child selves, our inner, some people call it inner child, kind of lining up with that, if it's like, for me, it's almost like walking side by side with my higher power.
Okay.
Versus my higher power, let's say, being over here and I'm back here, which has been some of my life in the past. I feel as though, and it's not always going to be perfect, and it's not always going to be that way all the time, but for right now, I'm getting closer to for me, it's alignment. I feel very in line with my higher power's plan for me.
That's amazing, and I know a lot of people have that same journey or that same desire to find something to to consider it authentic. It's like, aha, I may not have found it all, but I found my path, and I'm moving forward in there. Let me ask you too, because you are a writer and you have other releases, would you consider yourself a part of the LGBTQ plus writers kind of demographic, or do you identify that way?
Yes, I do. Very much so. I think that's important. I think it's, it's representation, right? And we know how important that is. And I have characters in my books that are transgender. The protagonist in Sentient, Gray, she's actually a lesbian. The other character, Cage, is actually transgender male. And then in the Animalist Code miniseries, he is also transgender. So it's just a part, because it's such a fabric of who I am.
Okay.
It's almost natural that it would be my character. They say, write what you know.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is write what you are, so to speak, because we don't know a lot about space, but we might know other things that we can apply to writing a book about space, just from who we are. If we are our authentic selves and we're meeting that person, whoever that is, I think it's only natural that it comes out in me being a non-binary transgender author.
Okay. So what would you consider your pronouns?
They, them.
They and them. Do you have any apprehensions of receiving any pushback because of your authenticity, or because sometimes when people, let me just throw this out there, sometimes when we release information or projects into the public domain, and I'm sure you've heard this before, it's like they're shoving that down our throats. Mm-hmm. And I love how you said, write, who you are, and those are the experiences. Do you find that there has been or maybe pushback to the characters being so much a part of the actual life tapestry, that people may be apprehensive to read your material?
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I feel like, and I was just mentioning this to a friend the other day, for me, my experience so far has been that the pushback is more so because I'm an animal rights activist and not the being transgender, actually. I think that might change the more that people actually read my stuff, but it is very clear in promotions and everything that this stuff is about animal rights instantly. And so I'm already getting, I'll promote on social media and I'll promote on Amazon. And mostly what I get is very disparaging comments like, oh, animal rights, whatever. Or, I think one person said something about, you're a fascist. And my response is, hey, you know what? If trying to get equal rights for animals makes me a fascist, I am okay with that. 100%. You can call me a fascist all you want.
Yeah.
It's all about developing that thick skin that this is who I am. I'm going to stand in this power. I'm not saying it's right for you. I'm saying it's right for me. And yes, I'm going to write about it. And if you don't like it, okay, that's fine. You don't have to like it. But can you not do the disparaging comments? Because that doesn't serve anybody. And I'm just lucky that I now have a thick enough skin that I constantly get disparaging comments about my writing. Yeah.
Interesting. So you get it more so about your writing than your personhood.
Yes.
Isn't that something?
I know. Again, as I come more into the public eye, I think that just given the political climate that we're in, I think that could change. I hope it doesn't change.
Sure.
But the animal activist thing is going to be much more threatening to people. I really do think that will happen. Yes.
And why? I know that the public, myself included, I ain't gonna lie, but I know we all have very passionate opinions, about pretty much everything. And with our access to have a platform anytime, any day to millions, if not the world of people, there is the increased interest in sharing everything that we feel. Why do you think so many people, or the ones that you've come in contact with disparaging remarks, why do you think they're so passionate about being against animal activism?
I don't know.
Mm.
If I had to guess, because I don't want to make assumptions.
Sure.
That's the social worker in me.
Mm-hmm.
My feeling when I get the disparaging comments is that they just feel like they are 100% right.
Yeah.
That I am trying to, like you said, push it down their throats. So I think I'm a perceived threat.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's about food, and our food is very important to us, and it's a very carnal thing, pressing people about what they eat. Food it's familial. It's what we all get together to socialize. There's always food there. So I am threatening someone's food, and people don't like that. It makes people uncomfortable. I think it scares people. I think I don't know how much of it is shame of if someone subconsciously is like, I know that maybe I'm harming animals by making my choices, so I'm just gonna project onto you.
Mm.
Those are just guesses, but I don't know.
I wonder, because these, I think that both go hand in hand. I wonder if part of that is me rejecting the identity of myself as somebody who's doing something that's being presented to me as wrong.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's kind of like the internalization. Like, you can't tell me who I am and what I eat and what I'm wanting to do. I think that's such a psychological perspective and a persona, and just how people respond based on whatever triggers them in that way. But I wonder if it is kind of, even though it's food, I wonder if it goes to the identity, like, that's me.
I think you're totally right. That's me. I've fished for years with my family, or
yes.
I believe in the Bible, and the Bible says that animals, God said animals are on this planet for us to eat and to use, and you are attacking that identity. You're attacking that belief system, and I don't want my belief system attacked. And for me, it's like, I'm not attacking your belief system. I'm putting out a book and letting people know that the book is out there, and you could just ignore it and turn away, and that would be okay. You don't have to read the book. Absolutely. Never. You can turn away. You can look away from it.
With all of the strides and the struggles towards equality and unity, and this is just me saying it, but it seems like a lot of it is pushing towards everybody kind of thinking the same and agreeing the same way under certain perspectives, under agreeing the same. Do you think that there is also room to say, I just don't agree?
Yes, there has to be, because I'm a Taoist through and through, and it's hard for me to stick to my beliefs on this, because I'm also vegan, is to remember that it doesn't mean that I'm right, and I don't know if I'm right. I want to be right, but if someone's living their true authentic selves, I have, most of my friends are not vegan, and they eat what they eat, and I will sit with them while they eat what they eat. Do I like it? No. Do I say anything? No. That's their life that they're living, because I know for me, I'm going to live in my action. The best thing I can do is live in my action, show it's possible to be vegan, and show that that is accessible and the resources are available. And people know that. My family knows that. My friends know that. And I think that's what I try to emulate across the board. Is it is accessible, but we have the freedom to make our own choices.
Sure.
And so that's why, to me, suffering exists in the world. and I can accept that it does because we have the freedom to choose.
I love that, and I also am highlighting, I think, if you will, the dissension and the bitterness, and I think that the world is better if, in some perspectives, when we come across things, when we're challenged with the opportunity to know that we disagree, but we choose not to be disagreeable.
Yes.
When we understand that's like, you know what, I that's not what I would do, but I'm not going to rain on your parade because you are able to do that, and I'm totally not impacted personally in my person by a difference of opinion, by a difference of lifestyle, by any of these things. And I think that reminds me of how your book and how life and even the characters in your book and you're talking about in your journey, it's a whole universal element to say things are different. People view things differently. And there's a way to acknowledge that without hatred.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it comes down to, is it's like, the disparaging remarks are not necessary. It's not pushing us forward in humanity, right? And it's not bringing us any closer to peace. And I know for me, I'm very cautious about my social media, how I present myself, my persona, and what that looks like. And, there are some vegans, animal rights activists that have made a choice to be more disparaging with their messages and their messaging and their content. My content is more focused on, I'm just educating you that this is what happens to animals, and I'm asking if you would consider going vegan. But what I'm not saying is, you're an awful human being. You are, how dare you? Or like, you must be ignorant, or, shame on you. I really try to pull, it's not helpful. It's not helpful, and it doesn't build relationships. It doesn't bring us closer, and it doesn't make anybody want to go vegan. If I'm going to sit here and go, well, shame on you. What's it going to take to go vegan? Like, I mean, how's that going to help anybody? It just doesn't. So it's not messaging that I believe in. And I do hope that as I go forward, my messaging maintains that, look what our world could look like if we treated animals differently. Look what, the hope message of, look how happy these animals are because they live out their full lives. I try to do that kind of messaging instead. It's more positive. It's the world I would like to see happen.
Yeah. So when's the book come out, and where can people find it?
The book comes out in June of 2022, and you will be able to, there will be physical copies that can be purchased. I would say best place to go is my website, jvanlandingham.com. That being because you can join my newsletter. You can get a free download of Animalist Code Episode 1, so you can get started on that. Okay. And then if you're on my newsletter, you can get discounts for free merchandise. You can get the updates on Sentient and find out when it's coming. You can do pre-orders and just I've got a lot of stuff going on and happening, so that's the best way to keep up. But it will be on Amazon. It will be on Kobo. It will be on other sources as well. But mainly, it's the direct sales on my website, because I'm self-published, are the best way, because as an author, an indie author, I will make more money off of the direct sales than if it were Amazon or somewhere else.
Yeah, and that's important to know. Jay, thank you so much for sharing.
I appreciate you.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is Jay VanLandingham. Listen, wow, what a project. And inside that project, what a message. A message of hope, a message of inspiration, a message of unity, but also the permission that you can give yourself to understand that your perspective may not be the only perspective in what's right and what's wrong. And we can be civil, we can be kind, and we can continue to spread love no matter what our perspective nor what our platform is. So remember, you are the best you in the world. Make sure that you check out the book, and we will see you next time here on The Phillip Show. Don't wait.